Hello everyone and welcome to the 2015 World Championship Series for StarCraft II. We are live from Burbank, California and ready for our final day of the round of 32 for WCS Premier League Season 1. Yesterday we saw Group G and 2 players qualify in Showtime and Hydra on towards the round of 16. Today we'll see Group H, but before we get there, let's take a look at all the action that's happened thus far. We've had players from all over the world compete, from North and Latin America, Europe, Oceania, and China. 14 players have already secured their spot in the round of 16, and now it all ends with Group H. Our first player will be iaguz, the only Terran in the group, hailing from Australia. Next we have the Finnish Protoss, Welmu, who has never been knocked out of the round of 32. And we have top 3 control, Mr. The Huck, for the Canadian Protoss from Evil Geniuses, who has been a fan favorite from the beginning of StarCraft II. And last but not least, we have China's strongest player, MacSed, coming in with 6 consecutive Premier League appearances. I'm really excited for today's games. I hope you guys are as well. But before we continue, let's hear a few words from our expert, Apollo.
Group H, Australia, Finland, Canada and China make up the final group of the round of 32. iaguz enters the Premier League for the second time and will be wanting to join his Australian colleague Pig in the round of 16. Welmu is one of the most successful players in the WCS Europe over the last couple of years. He has never been defeated in the round of 32 before. Over the years, Huck has won titles at MLG and DreamHack, and more notably last season achieved a top 8 finish in the Premier League. A lot of people are expecting Huck to have a big year in the WCS. Rounding out the round of 32 is MacSed, the 3rd Protoss player in this group. He's also a 6-time Premier League competitor from China. The final group is sure to be an exciting and unpredictable conclusion to the round of 32.
As Apollo just mentioned, 6 consecutive Premier League appearances by MacSed is no easy feat. He also has the advantage heading into our first match of the day and being ahead in the head-to-head score with iaguz, being up 9-2 over our Australian Terran. However, with a group full of Protoss, iaguz has had the advantage of only having to prepare for one matchup. Will our Gimli Terran have a few tricks up his sleeve, or will MacSed send him down under to the lower bracket match? It's time to find out with Rotterdam and Nathanius.
Thank you very much, Sue. The last time that iaguz was here, he was in a group with 2 Protoss players, Nate, and he smashed it. He went all the way. He went through the round of 32 without breaking a sweat, as he won that group very surprisingly back then. The round of 16 was eventually the final stage for him, but the fact that he won that round of 32 group, that is something that I think a lot of fans from down under will remember, and something that we definitely remember as well. But today, Nate, it's not going to be any easier than it was last time.
No, going up against... You've got your top class from, of course, America. We have Huck coming in, and then also Welmu, someone that is, you know, for all intents and purposes, a good Protoss in Europe, but not someone that iaguz may have as much experience playing against, and surely not going to have, I think, the same style as the other Protoss players that we'll see in this group. And then the wild card, MacSed, where we've always seen just a little bit of different play out of the Chinese Protosses.
Yep. Even though iaguz and MacSed, which is going to be our first match of the day, have played against each other quite a few times, and the score is heavily in favor of MacSed, a lot of those results go back from 2011 or 2012, and back then iaguz was not the same player as he is in this day and age. In 2014 they played against each other twice, and they traded best of 3s. iaguz won 1, MacSed won 1, so I actually think this is a pretty damn even matchup on paper. We know a lot about MacSed's PvT, and I think that iaguz knows a lot about MacSed's PvT, and I'd be very shocked if MacSed suddenly decides to open up with Storm over here, Nate. I'm not saying he's not going to get it at all throughout the entire series, because we saw Jim get Storm, but in general, I think that this man on the screen, iaguz, should have a pretty good idea of what MacSed is going to bring to the show today.
Yeah, iaguz, of course, a Root Gaming Terran player. This is the second time we're seeing it in the Premier League. He's pretty good when you talk about Terrans from the Australia-New Zealand scene. There's not a lot of them, as mostly Zergs managed to escape from down under, as it were. But MacSed, he's another one of the, I guess Invictus Gaming has had a pretty good run as far as getting through in the Chinese scene to qualify for Premier League this season.
Yes, they had 4 players here, so that's of course awesome. But so far, Nate, I believe only one actually made it to the round of 16, and that is Jigua. Jim was unfortunately not able to make it, and yesterday we saw that IA was not able to make it as well, even though he was in a very tough group, especially after Hydra dropped that first series today. MacSed, probably looks at this group and probably thinks like, this could have been a lot worse for me. We know that MacSed is not a star against Terran, and despite the fact that his first match is against a Terran, you know, iaguz is an awesome player and we love him, but it could have been a lot worse. You know, it's not a Pole that he has to go up against, or like in the previous seasons when he was part of WCS America, he had to go up against Tasia and stuff. So,
yeah,
you know, iaguz is phenomenal, but, you know, he's no Tasia just yet. Might just be a matter of time, but he's not a Tasia.
Getting matched up versus any of those guys in the early stages was pretty much a death sentence for your, I can do it, I can get to the round of 16, all that hope. We only had very, very few surprises in that regard, and I still think that iaguz's victory over Alicia was quite unexpected in the round of 32 last year, where, as you mentioned, when he came out first place in his group after, I think he tweeted before that match, he was like, oh, I'm not really feeling that good today, but I'll give it my best shot. And, well, he surprised everybody.
We are about to hop into the first game of the day. This is an awesome day of StarCraft 2 for me, as I am a Protoss player. With 3 Protoss players in this group, Nate, it means that every single game today is going to have at least one Protoss in it. We're going to have a couple of PvPs, something that I'm particularly very excited about. I'm going to try to make you as excited about it as well. Because PvP, Nate, it's not as bad as some people make it sound it is. It's actually a beautiful matchup. But for now, we're going to start with our favorite matchup to cast when we are together, and that is a good old Protoss versus Terran on Vonnie Research Station.
That's right. We're loaded into map number 1. Our first player in the south position representing Root Gaming, he is iaguz.
He's like, I spawned at the 6 o'clock position of this map. That's not bad at all.
Not bad.
He's like already satisfied with his performance today. You know, he's like, that could have been so much worse. At the top side of Vonnie Research Station, we have our Chinese Protoss representing Invictus Gaming. Give it up for MacSed. Was a very interesting bullet point that you put on this card. MacSed was a commentator for the WCS finals.
I was very surprised when I found that out. Doing a little bit of digging.
Well, let's just hope that he sticks to Chinese, Nate, because if he switches to English, we're out of a job.
Yeah, well, probably. I think he'll wreck us in the commentary booth and in the game. That's for sure.
He's like, you think you know Phoenix Colossus? I was born by Phoenix Colossus. It's like, okay, sorry, MacSed.
Molded by it.
Curious to see how iaguz is going to open up over here, Nate. I saw him play a PVT earlier, or TvP I should say, when we talked about his point of view earlier today on Vonnie Research Station, and he struggled against a couple of the European GM Protoss players. I think in general this is a matchup that is pretty straightforward, especially, well, I mean, it's not straightforward. There's a lot of complicated scenarios, especially between the 6 and 10 minute mark. But I think when you go up against MacSed, I think scouting is obviously the #1 most important thing, and then if you figure out he's playing against Phoenix Colossus, well, then you better be ready to deal with Phoenix Colossus. And if the people wonder, like, well, how do you deal with it? Not like what Paul did on Deadwing against Jim. If you fight with Vikings against Phoenix and Colossus, you make damn sure that you win the first fight.
And then, like, the first storm that Jim ever threw down in a competitive match hit every single Viking at once.
But the most important thing is if MacSed would get to this phase in the game where he will have a crazy amount of Phoenixes, and it may seem like we're getting ahead of the curve here, but we are pretty damn sure that we will see some Phoenix Colossus in this series.
I would be very surprised if we did.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important that when iaguz decides to take a fight with all of his Vikings, that he wins the first fight. If you lose a fight where you lose 16 to 18 Vikings and the Colossus survive, or a bunch of Phoenixes survive, or even worse, both, well, then it's borderline impossible for a Terran to come back into this matchup.
Yeah. So far, this game, iaguz has not opted to open up with the very standard Reaper. He's gotten a single Marine straight into a reactor, so a pretty greedy opening, but he scouted for proxies. This map, as someone who ladders quite a bit on this map, there's a fair amount of proxies that come out of Protosses, so I think based on his opening, his choices this game make a lot of sense.
I wouldn't know anything about that, Nate.
Proxy, Roddy? Or is that just supposed to be some, like, it's a joke?
It's a sarcasm.
Okay.
I know all about it.
I'll make sure to scout extra hard if I have to play against you on this map then.
But so far everything is very standard. You know, MacSed dropping the Nexus before any other unit. The factory is going to be the follow-up for iaguz. This is the same build order that we saw multiple times yesterday, being brought to the show by Moro. I must say Showtime had a really good idea of how he wanted to deal with this. I think especially the game on Catalina, I think that was just a perfect scenario. He got his first observer right when the Withermine drop hit, and then he already had that pylon up on the other side of the map where he could counterattack with some Blink Stalkers. I think it was an awesome idea, and I think that pretty much set him up for victory. The first tech building that's going down for MacSed is indeed going to be the Stargate. Nate, on a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked are you right now?
I mean, like a a lake that hasn't been disturbed, I guess. Just kind of expecting it, you know, it's just there. Not too surprising. We see a lot of the Chinese players open up with Stargates against Terran, and iaguz' opening can deal very well with this. If his Marines are in position, he can defend one mineral line. If he plants the Widow Mine instead of keeping it ready to go into a medevac very quickly, that can also help hold off any type of push.
It's interesting that iaguz is still aiming to go for this, because with an opening like this, obviously it's not as bad as if you don't have the command center, but it's still an opening that you would love to do some damage with. You don't want to lose the first 2 medevacs and only kill like 2 workers. He knows that MacSed is most likely going to open up with the Stargate over here, so iaguz has to be damn sure that he's going to find a window to actually drop a mine and be able to get a handful of probes, because if he doesn't, then I think this is already going to be a very frustrating matchup for him to deal with, because of course the real amount of bio units is going to be delayed a little bit because of this opening.
Yeah, iaguz is already thinking about, you know, some sort of hidden stuff around the map that SCV's been checking very carefully. Like if you look at iaguz' vision, he's checked out a fair amount of this map. He's checked damn near every corner that he could. So
I actually had a little conversation with iaguz earlier this morning while we see the Oracle marching across the map. So let's just focus on this Oracle for now, and then I can tell you guys all about my little conversation with iaguz. He has 5 Marines in the natural, 6 Marines now, so that should be all right. How many Marines do we have in the main? Oh, he just picked up both Widow Mines, Nate. Oh man, that mineral line MacSed is so juicy. There's nothing in the mineral line, Nate.
Yeah, he's going to kill these SCVs, trying to start up additional barracks production, and these Marines move over, so he's got it covered now. But the Oracle did a little bit of damage.
How much energy does this Oracle have? It has 30 now. Okay, he cancelled Pulsar Beam, which I think is very smart, because now he's going to fly across the other side of the map.
Yeah,
and
he'll
by the
have
time
enough
he's
energy to use the Envision to see the Widow Mines once they burrow.
And that is very important. Does he have enough units to actually do something about it? Yeah, he has 3 Stalkers and a Mothership Core. He should be more than fine. Cannon going down in both bases as well. I actually don't think that these Widow Mines will do a whole lot, unless MacSed completely drops the ball on defending against this, but I can't imagine that happening.
Yeah, very tense moment as another Oracle will finish soon too. So the Widow Mines are going to be in a burrow. Probe's not really moving. Okay, well, the one that actually was quite close was not told to burrow in time, so didn't really get anything done. And only picking off 2 probes. Solid hold so far.
Yeah, very solid for MacSed, I think. If you wonder why iaguz was scouting around the map.
Oh, he's just going to take a third too.
That's so quick. 8 minutes and 40 seconds.
And
Third base against Terran.
there's not really a lot iaguz can do about it.
No, because that's, of course, if you open up with the Widow Mines, you need to do a serious amount of damage, because the amount of buy units that you have is a lot lower than you normally would have if you would have just opened up with 2 racks and tried to rush straight up to medevacs. Now, he does still have quite a few, and the robotics today has just been dropped, so he's going to probably try to Chrono Boost out the first Colossus as soon as possible. I still think this is a rather tricky hold, though. I mean, there's no stim.
If the Nexus isn't done, then there's no photon overcharge for it. And there's not like a crazy amount of gateway units.
We have 3 Stalkers, so that's 2 volleys for a Marine. If he gets 1 Colossus out, I think then he can defend the Nexus
easily. The 2 cannons that he's building at the Nexus are also going to make it a little bit easier for him.
How many gateways are we looking at right now? Just 1, but he could use the Oracles as well. We'll see. If MacSed is able to keep this Nexus alive, that would be phenomenal for him, but well, I actually think with the 2 cannons, Nate, and 3 Stalkers, and maybe warp in a unit, he should be fine, right? It's a lot of Marines, but we all know what Stalkers can do against slow Marines.
Yeah, without stim, they're just not too flexible. And now he has a Mothership Core there, so if this army gets caught, he can, of course, throw it on the time.
MacSed could actually start kiting this. I think he's, of course, you know, it's easy for us to say because we have information to when stim is going to finish up, and the last thing you want to do is chase a bunch of Marines with the Stalkers, and then they turn around, they stim, and they kill all your units. But stim is actually still 70 seconds away from completing. So he could have chased it and could have definitely chipped away at that Marine count.
Yeah. Well, he got the 3rd base, which is a very huge
it's ridiculous.
deal.
8 minutes and 40 seconds, 3rd base against Terran.
For PVT, and now he's at about half saturated, so everything's looking really good this game for MacSed. The Colossus production begins getting Thermal Lance, +1 attack, and no second Forge yet, and I don't believe there's Twilight Council.
I don't recommend
him chilling.
Yeah, I don't recommend him going to the double Forge now because he barely has any units, he barely has any production. I think getting a couple of additional gateways is much more important for now. Yeah, I mean, the air units are just controlling in the middle of the map. These Phoenixes might actually intercept these medevacs on the right side. They're scarily close to each other. It actually frightens me, Nate, for iaguz. Because if he loses one of these medevacs that's full of bio units, then he's absolutely in awful position. But so far, they have gone completely undetected on the right side of the map.
Yeah, 2.5 full medevacs. To see.
That's funny, man. It's like 2.5 men.
Yeah, just
2.5 full medevac. I would watch that show, Nate.
I think it could be interesting. He's got a couple of gateways that weren't turned on just yet. His army moved over towards the third as this drop hits his natural expansion. And good couple of probes already shaved off. 9 workers killed by iaguz. And the Oracles are going to come over here with the Phoenix starting to pick up the Marines. But he actually kills off the Oracles. And the Phoenix are not able to take down this army in time. So he's not mining at all at this natural.
Yeah, I didn't really like that engagement. Where's the mothership core? Like, if he would have had a mothership core there, then I would say, okay.
It's still chilling at the third.
Yeah. He had so much Colossus, he just like overprotected his turret and he didn't have enough over here.
He focused down every single probe that came back.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Wow, that's 22 workers killed for iaguz, and I think for a game that seemed to be in a potentially dicey situation, he just brought it back with 2.5 medevacs.
Yes, he did. These Phoenixes will be able to snipe that last medevac that was left behind on the right top side of the map, but overall this was indeed a very, very good trade for iaguz. Now he is the one that's 8 workers ahead. He has also reduced the Phoenix count a little bit. He took care of the Oracles. That was just a very silly fight from MacSed to take. He over defended, you know, on the left side of the map.
Not having the mothership core there,
yeah.
like
he also
had
he had 2 cannons and 2 Colossus and the gateway units and the mothership core on the left side. He just really relied on these Phoenixes and Oracles from units ever even entering that phase. And you know, if you have your Phoenixes and Oracles right on top of that medevac drop, then the units will be dropped one by one and the Oracle with Pulsar Beam will kill the Marines one by one. But it's a world of difference when all 60 Marines are already unloaded. Like, then you just can't fight it anymore with such a small air army. So MacSed just really relying on vision that he thought he had, but he didn't. And that drop definitely put him behind.
Forced to spend quite a few resources on reproducing those probes. But now the fleet beacon is done. The Phoenix production is once again going. And he's getting anion pulse crystals, so the range upgrade for the Phoenix, that's going to make them significantly more impactful against Vikings with that extra range.
Yeah, I love the fact that iaguz is already pumping out 4 Vikings at a time. That's exactly what you want to do. He's going to try to make some magic happen one more time with a big drop
Actually,
here.
having these Vikings help to cover for this drop, there's really nothing here except this one Colossus.
Well, there are a bunch of Phoenixes on the right side.
And I mean, if the Vikings zone him out and he gets in, I feel like that's where things can get crazy.
Ghost Academy going down as well. MacSed is supply blocked, and it's actually quite a big one, Nate. He's dropping 4 or 5 pylons now at once. He's like, pause, please. I have just been supply blocked for minutes.
Sure, it doesn't mean pylons, please, Roddy.
We require additional pylons.
Sorry, it's need a little bit of time for this to go through. But interesting start already, I think, for this series.
Very promising start for the man from down under, though. I think early on it didn't really look all that good for him. But that drop completely changed the landscape of this game, and now I definitely like iaguz's position. He's up 25 supply. Doesn't mean that he can take a silly fight, because, you know, what I said in the start of the game, that still goes. If you lose your first 8 or 10 Vikings, you're going to have a very hard time. Oh, God.
I do like having this drop escorted by the Vikings. He has more than enough to start one-shotting the Phoenix, and especially with how many Marines are in this army coming over to chase it. He has to bring his full force. And I mean, I guess also go full pull on this Nexus and just kill it and try to get out.
Yeah, but it's a huge commitment, though. I mean, it's very risky to go in. Here come all these Phoenixes. Oh, they're going to snipe a couple of these medevacs. Now the Vikings coming from the south side, but I actually think that iaguz may be overcommitting here a little bit, Nate.
He does have a lot of his Vikings with this force, but now that the bio's been cleaned up, the Phoenix can get to work. That range upgrade actually working very nicely for them. Some more Marines waiting on the other side, though. Weird to see a Colossus shooting across that gap.
Today I learned, Nate, I was not sure that my Colossus could shoot from my natural to the gold base.
Is this your new harass tactic before you send your War Prism in?
Extended thermal lens is even better than I thought it was. Second target going down. Sniping the Nexus is awesome, of course, but MacSed still has a reasonable economy. It's going to slow him down, but I'm not sure if iaguz can make like a big push. Well, he did do a really good job in reducing the Phoenix count. He sniped a solid 7 or 8 Phoenixes. I wonder how many Phoenixes have died so far in this game.
There have been 9 Phoenix killed.
Okay, that is actually, I think, way more than MacSed is used to losing in a 17-minute game.
It's a significant amount of resources compared to only 3 Vikings lost. Most of iaguz's losses have been in the medevacs he invested for the drops and Marines. But he's got a 4th base set up now, and the Ghosts, man, you only need 1 or 2 EMPs across those Phoenix, and they're totally useless as far as picking anything up after the Vikings have done their job.
Yep. Of course, you know, I do think that when the big fight starts, it's the job of the Vikings to kill the Colossus and not the Phoenixes.
Yeah.
We went over this in the past, but I think if Terran players actually start right-clicking the Phoenixes rather than the Colossus, that's when you're making a big mistake, because the Colossus will put out so much damage that even when your Vikings take care of all the Phoenixes, all of your bio units will die. So iaguz is starting to knock on the front door over here from MacSed. We're looking at 102 supply from MacSed, army supply that is, against 120 from iaguz. 16 Vikings against 11 Phoenix and 7 Colossus. I don't think this is the Viking number that he needs, Nate. I think he needs more. Like, I know that MacSed's army is not maxed out. It might work. Okay, the EMPs are going to be massive and all these sentries over here.
This army is super clumped up. Manages to hit the majority of the forces. Does not get the Phoenix, but he's ready to move forward. The Vikings are trying to chase those Colossi, getting one very, very low. The Phoenix, though, still able to get a lot of damage in on the Vikings.
Okay, we have 12 Vikings left. So far, this went very good for iaguz. MacSed in a very awkward position. There was really not good army positioning by him there.
I love this. Setting up this missile turret contained on the outside really neutralizes the effectiveness of the Phoenix. And MacSed's realizing he's like, I don't want to get locked in.
No, but he's moving out. That's kind of risky. The Viking number is really not that high, though, so maybe this is the moment. But MacSed needs just a few more units. I really feel he doesn't have that much on the ground. These Colossus, however, are pushing out so much damage. But like I said, there are no Zealots to stop anything.
The EMPs on top of this army were so good. Manor Mules drop. iaguz takes game number 1 against MacSed. The Australian Terran recovering very nicely. His drop play, even in the face of Phoenixes, was quite bold, but paid off with huge dividends.
Really surprised to see MacSed lose that amount of Phoenixes as well in like a 16-17 minute game. I think that first drop is truly what turned this game upside down. I think up to that point this game was going pretty damn well for MacSed. He was able to go up to 3 bases very quickly, in like 8 minutes and 40 seconds, going up to 3 bases as a Protoss against Terran. That's just phenomenal. You know, that's not something you get away with normally. He handled the mines very well, like losing 2 probes against 2 mines, absolutely nothing wrong with that, especially if you go up to 3 bases off the back of this. It's just that one drop in the natural later on, which, you know, MacSed thought he had vision.
This is what set him up, especially when
this happened. Like, he flies in with the Phoenixes and he ends up losing a couple Phoenixes. He loses the Oracles
too. Like, and later on when the army actually came by, like, he sends that one Colossus and the probes to go back to mining, and iaguz focus fires down every single probe. Like, at first it's 9, but he kills 22 workers with this push, which is absurd, like more than worth the units he loses for the investment he has to make. Like right now, you see all these probes come back, and iaguz is just like, yep, I don't care about anything else. Let's just kill all your workers. You have no economy. That's
really well done. And
nice.
It was definitely a risky play there by iaguz, because imagine if those medefacts do get spotted on the right side of the map.
Then he just comes up, catches it. And
he's going to lose at least one. This is the final fight where I think normally
he gets an EMP like right here on top of everything. So good.
And let's not forget that if you don't have charge, it also makes the army a little bit weaker. But I think MacSed overall was just bleeding a little bit too much throughout the entirety of this game. And normally as a Protoss with this army composition, you don't want to fight with 160 supply. You want to fight when you're maxed out.
Nope.
But I guess he was very worried about those turrets going up, and he's just like, well, the Viking number is not that high. Maybe I can make some magic happen, but there's too much DPS and all those stimmed Marines and Marauders.
Yeah, solid performance from our Root Terran in game number 1. We are now loaded into Deadwing for map 2 in the southeast position. We have our blue Protoss player representing Invictus Gaming. He is MacSed.
And on the right top side of that wing, we have the man from down under representing Root Gaming. It is iaguz. Tries to make it to the round of 16 for the 2nd time in a row. Would be very impressive. MacSed has been in Premier League for 6 seasons in a row now, but it's been a while since he had a deep run, Nate. The first season that he ever made it into WCS America was WCS America 2013 Season 2. Of course, right now we're playing WCS Premier League, but in the past he was competing in WCS America. And the very first time he went to the round of 8, which was really impressive. Like, he went very far. As back then Jim went to the round of 8 as well. That was the first time we saw these awesome Chinese Protoss players in action. But since then, they've never really made that extra step. They've had a couple of good runs. Of course, Jim was amazing at the Introductory Masters in Shenzhen. But other than that, you know, they've never gone all the way. What we perhaps thought they were capable of back then, because, you know, people that we see for the first time and suddenly go to the round of 8, we're like, wow, where is this going to end? But so far, it's just kind of, that seems to be their bar.
It's the wall they seem to hit every time they come in.
It's the ceiling.
It's tough. It's tough for these guys, but it's always been cool to watch how they've, you know, impacted the scene a bit. I don't think if you watched Intel Extreme Masters Shenzhen last year, that was where I think a lot of people that maybe hadn't heard of Jim, especially, things shaken up a bit.
People should have known by Jim by then, though. Or should
well,
have
you
known
and Miss Bear did a very good job of hyping him, but
sorry?
You and Bitter did a great job of hyping him.
Yeah, man, we made him sound like
his results really blew up, though.
It was awesome. We made him sound like the greatest player of all time, and then he beat Nesty 2-0. And everyone was like, they're right! Yeah, he had a couple good runs. Unfortunately for Jim, this season, the round of 32 was the end, as he played roughly 2 weeks ago, as he was in a group with Paul, TLO, and Kelazur. Played very well against Paul, but lost the series 1-2. Against TLO, he didn't play all that well, but of course, all props to Dario for that one, because I think TLO just played very smart in that series.
Yeah. So looking at this game, Command Center first opening from iaguz, No Fear out of the Australian Terran. And MacSed, very standard.
3 Rexes though, Nate. 3 Rexes. That is a Rex more than I think we normally see, even after.
Out of Command Center first, I wouldn't be too, say I'm too surprised.
Most of the time they go for 2 though.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the map sometimes, but iaguz also built an extra SCV than you normally would with his openings, so his first Marine was delayed a little bit, so this will help get his Marine production back in check.
I wouldn't be surprised if he makes an early poke, you know? Move out to the zone like Watchtower and then just go all the way and see.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. You don't have the ramp leading into the natural. It's a bit easier to make plays like that, especially given these spawns. There being a more direct path between the two of them, I feel, makes any Phoenix play a little bit better for defending, because you're really only going to be accepting those attacks coming straight down. It's quite a ways for those medevacs to fly all around the southwest end of the map to actually get to your natural.
Once again, we see the Stargate going down in the right bottom side of the map. Not a surprise here. We've been talking about it for a while. This is about as surprising, Nate, as Amazon delivering a package for you, which happens every single day. I get very excited. Someone knocks on the door. I was like, maybe it's something for me. Even on Christmas. Nope. Are you Nathan Fabricant? No, I'm not. I wish I was.
Sorry, kid. Well, we'll have to see. Maybe iaguz will have more delivery drops. MacSed as we get into this game. The drop play really solidified that, but I feel like if you don't do damage early on against a Protoss who takes a... And I'm sure we won't see a third base as fast. iaguz has a good amount of Marine production. He's getting a bunker up, and he has already some Marines put in his main base. So he's reasonably well prepared to deal with some level of early poke by MacSed.
I actually like this because this, this opening from iaguz is also going to allow him to have way more bio units at like the 9:30, 10-minute mark. So I think the first time he decides to become aggressive, it's going to be kind of tricky for MacSed to deal with. And above all, it's going to be so much harder for MacSed to ever go up to 3 bases. And I love that iaguz switches it up as well. You know, game number 1 went for the Widowmine drop, Reaper into, no, it wasn't the Reaper, but Marine into Fast Expand into Widowmine drop. And this time he's doing the complete opposite. And I actually think against a player like MacSed, this style might even be slightly more effective.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how this holds. As this Oracle's going to come in, and nothing really for it to work on here. Maybe we can get the SCV at the tail end of this refinery. Tries to click on it, misses, as it's basically inside of it, building it.
Terran players became so good against defending against Oracles. I remember the very first time I ever saw the Oracle, Nate, with Pulsar Beam. It was White Draw versus Red. And there were 2 Oracles flying into drone lands and they killed everything. And I was like, wow, I have no idea how anyone is ever going to deal with this unit. And then we realized a single Spore or a couple of Marines in every base will suddenly neglect all the damage that these bad boys do.
Yeah, maybe at some point or another you see it often enough that you come to expect it, tailor your builds around it, and these Marines come up under it, get a little bit of paint damage on it.
I can't believe it that MacSed is still trying to go up to 3 bases at the 8-minute mark, despite doing absolutely 0 damage with his Oracle, doing this off 1 gateway, I believe. Let me just double check that real quick.
Yeah, now this push is coming. Very similar to the last one, except now he's got a bunch of Marauders mixed in.
He's got way more firepower this time, and I really don't see how MacSed is ever going to be able to keep that base alive. Doesn't matter if he has 2 cannons over there. There are a couple of Marauders, and Stim is going to be ready this time as well, because he didn't put his gas into that quick refinery or Widow Mines. No, he put that gas into a quicker Stim pack. So I just see no way for MacSed to ever keep that base alive.
I'll have to see if iaguz decides to push the issue. This time around, the Nexus will be pretty close to completing.
He has to scout it first, though. He's going to run up the ramp, Nate. Oh, no, he has scouted it. Stim to win. Colossus is halfway down. The Revelation being dropped. He's going to work on the cannons.
He has to do it now because that Photon Overcharge is going to be ready very soon. Gets the Oracle. That's a really big pickup and forces a cancel on the Nexus. Those cannons, a wasted investment. Even coming up here, getting under this Mothership core, very close to killing that. and will at least force out some of its energy, making it a weaker target for later.
I love this push. This is really what I thought was going to happen all along.
It was super effective.
Yep, it just makes so much sense. If somebody goes up to 3 bases of 1 gateway, he's not going to have any units. The Widow Mines is something that MacSed dealt very well with on Vonnie Research Station, but if the opposite happens and your opponent just makes a crazy amount of bio units, it doesn't matter how well you do it. Like, there's just no way you can keep that base alive against so many bio units. 8-9 minutes into the game, if you don't have your Colossus yet, you open up with a Stargate that dealt absolutely no damage at all. And now MacSed losing his Oracle. It's kind of devastating for him so far, Nate.
Yeah. Rough opening for our Chinese Protoss as he now starts his Phoenix production up a little bit more, getting +1 air attack for those Phoenix.
Much quicker than in the previous game, I feel. Like,
Yeah.
I know he got it in the previous game as well in Vonnie Research, but I think this time it's quite a bit quicker.
Yeah. And Ig is already 2 starports on reactors, ready to rock and roll with that Viking production. And it's nice because it'll also allow him to make sure that he can get a couple medevacs out, since we're not at that crazy double Stargate production phase yet for MacSed.
He's been doing his homework and he's been watching games of MacSed. He's played against MacSed multiple times in the past, and he said he also plays him on ladder quite often. He knows this style by now. This is not going to catch him by a surprise anymore. And so far, I really like the way that iaguz has approached this best of 3.
He's just got a nice 30 supply lead.
Yeah.
Just grinding it out without any major engagements. That cancel on the 3rd and the defense of the Oracle was really all he needed to be in a good spot this game. And now he has his 3rd. It has not even yet started again for MacSed, as his +1 is close to finishing for his Phoenix and his Thermal Lance.
Like, MacSed's build is good, but if you're that predictable, then at a certain point people will really just start doing builds they normally don't do
He's in
anymore.
a little deep here. He's going to spread his army out. There's not too much to buffer here for the Colossi, but the force fields are solid so far. iaguz perhaps caught a little bit out of position, but the spread, he could still move forward in these Colossi.
No. iaguz is going to lose this fight, that's for sure. That's actually, I do think he completely overextended that. There was no reason for him to even overextend. He's on 3 bases against the 2-base Protoss, and then he walks himself into a corner. So that is the first real mistake I think that iaguz has made so far in this series.
Do you think there were enough Phoenix that he could have tried to boost away, like they weren't already there? Or like there weren't enough for him to kill the medevacs if he just tried to leave?
Yeah, no, I think he should have just picked up
everything.
everything.
Look at these pylons he's adding. He's ready. I think he's going to try to take this game off the back of this attack. And
yeah, MacSed is like, hey, I just killed a bunch of bio units. I'm going to see if I can make some magic happen over here. There are no medefacts out on the map right now, Nate. There are a lot of Vikings, though.
So every stim is permanent damage at this point for iaguz.
It's also very risky for MacSed. Of course, you know, if he wins the game, then this is an awesome decision. He's up in army supply. Normally, that's a very, very good scenario for Protoss.
If he loses this fight, he's down a base, and that's it could end up just being it. He's going to move in now. iaguz, his Vikings are hitting the Phoenix at the moment. Okay, now starting to target the Colossi. Needing to kite that bio back without charge. Zealot's not able to get in as close. The Colossi actually were not hitting the bio during that fight, but the Vikings are being cleaned up.
Yeah, the Vikings a couple of times. Again, they're working on Phoenixes.
And another stim. This bio is so weak. The SCV is being pulled to help defend against this, but he still needs to actually kill the Colossi.
Yeah, actually, so far, I can't believe that iaguz is actually doing so well in this fight, especially because he focused the Phoenix multiple times during this battle. I really felt he could have killed at least 1 more Colossus if the Vikings would have been working on the Colossus all along. iaguz lost 25 SCVs, but that is absolutely no problem, as he's only down 6 workers, but he has 1 orbital more.
Yeah, the ability to mule is so important. And of course, reproduce those SCVs 3 at a time. 4 medevacs on the way out. I think when these medevacs finish, the healing power of this army should be enough to replenish it to the point where I don't think he can break it anymore.
Yep, and we have still 4 Vikings as well, and that's still quite a bit of damage output. The Zealots are in the back of this army, so these Marauders are just ripping through the forces of MacSed.
Absolutely fantastic engagement for iaguz as he cleans up all of the Colossi, and now the bio reinforcements that are going to trickle out should be able to push the rest of this back. SCVs pulled once again. MacSed down to 65 supply, running away from this Terran force, continuing to warp in though. He's going to try, but I don't think there's too much left he can do, Roddy.
Nope, Stim Bio is so superior compared to slow gateway units. These Stalkers don't have blink, these Zealots don't have charge. This is just you know, a playing field for iaguz over here, and MacSed knows it. iaguz wins the first series of the day convincingly 2-0. Despite a small slip up. Yeah, despite a small slip up there, you know, on the south side, maybe overcommitting a little bit.
4 medevacs worth of units died, but still took it. Got to feel pretty good after that.
Yeah, the hold was phenomenal though, because that was not an easy hold, because he had 0 medevacs in that hold, and there were still quite a few Colossus, and the Viking count wasn't, you know, out of this hold. It wasn't bad. I think he started that fight with 8 or something, but that was a very good hold.
Yeah. Well played by the Root Terran player, as he will go up to the winner's match and nice, quick series. Didn't have to show too much fanciness. And I think if you're one of the other Protoss players in this group and you're like, what can I learn from that? I mean, unless you play Phoenix Colossus, I feel like there's not too much except perhaps that opener that he did on Vonnie Research Station where it gets a little bit cheeky with the mine drops.
I think it also comes down to, him playing against MacSed. Like, if Hawk suddenly busts out Phoenix Colossus, I think iaguz might have a lot more trouble dealing with it. Not because Hawk would necessarily be so much better in executing that build, but just because you can't be 100% sure that Hawk is going to do it well from MacSed.
He did go very quickly up to the double star
Exactly.
ports.
You're never 100% sure, but it's definitely something that's in the back of your mind. Like, well, I'm playing against MacSed or Jim. There's a very good chance they will go Phoenix Colossus, and then you see the Oracle, you're like, okay, well, I kind of know what I want to do. I really liked everything he did on Deadwing, other than that small overcommitment on the south side of the map.
Yeah.
But eventually, that triggered MacSed to immediately counterattack and go for that,
So in a way, it could have you could say that it just caused the game to end even faster.
I don't think we want to draw those connections, but overall, I think a very good series by iaguz, and I think he can be very happy with his performance in the first series of the day.
Yeah. Well played. Very, very nice series. He will play against the winner of the next match between Huck and Velmu.
That's going to be awesome.
Nice PvP.
Some PvP, Nate. I'm ready. I got my notebook ready. I want to see what these two guys are going to bring to the table. But for now, we're going to head over to Sue, who's on the couch.
Thank you very much, Rotterdam. If iaguz was phased at all by his losing record against MacSed previous to this match, it was a 2-9 record. He didn't show it at all with a very, very impressive 2-0. I'm really looking forward to how he does against his next match. It'll be the winner between Welmu and Huck. Of course, we're going to go to a short commercial break. Let us know what you guys are thinking. Hashtag WCS on social media. Of course, a huge shout out to Gigabyte and BenQ for all their support this weekend. Don't go anywhere, guys. More WCS Premier League action after this.